Hi friends, it's Monique, your slightly awkward journaling buddy. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope that you feel inspired to join me on this specific journey today. So today we'll be making a journal from envelopes. I do like using envelopes because they are readily available. If you want to use your junk mail envelopes, you can. They don't necessarily have to be the same color, but I would say the same size would probably be a good idea. But you can do whatever you need to. So this is like an accordion fold, and it's a really cool journal. You use the 6 envelopes. You can use more, but then keep in mind that it does get much chunkier. So you sew them together, and then you have 5 signatures in this one. And I'm going to be making this journal from scratch and sewing in the signatures and decorating the front cover of this journal today. And then I thought about making this a series. So in part 2 we'll probably tackle the back cover, and I'll start with making ephemera for every signature and for pockets and stuff like that. And let's get into it. So today I'm going to be making the journal out of these brown envelopes. I've chosen 6 for this project, and I think that'll be fine. I was thinking about doing more, but I'm scared that it's too thick then, because I'm planning on doing quite a bit with this journal. So normal brown envelopes, you can use any color, any shape that you can find. Even if they aren't exactly the same, this should work. You'll just have to plan it out nicely. If they can be the same, I think that'll be great. And then I've chosen a selection of different types of papers, which I'll be using to make the signatures. If my calculations are correct, I think I'm going to be putting 5 small signatures in this journal. And I've also chosen a scrapbook paper that I really like. On camera I'm not sure how it shows up, might be looking grey, but it's more like a purple blue, so it's not directional, doesn't have a loud design to it, it's very muted, very nice. So I'm going to be using this to do the front and the back cover of the flip-flop journal that I'm going to be making. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out how I will stagger them. So if I put them all like this, I'll have pockets on all the sides. I want this to be like a front, so I'd like it to open normally like a normal book. So this one will be the start, and if I place this one here, this is going to fold over it like so. And if I place the next one here, all pockets folding up, then this one's going to be going this way. So if you open it, pocket this side, pocket this side. So I might alternate the direction of the pocket as I'm doing it. So I'm just going to be using my Dala paper glue for attaching the envelopes together. I'm just leaving a slight amount of space from the fold to the new envelope, just to help the journal absorb the bulk, because there might be quite a bit of bulk. I'm not planning on making the signatures too thick, but I'm going to have 5 signatures, and I'm going to stuff stuff in the pocket, and I might be doing something on the sides. So let's see where this takes us. I'm very excited to do this. Once again, I'm just leaving a little bit of additional space, just so it folds nicely around the signatures. See, now this is something I didn't account for, so I'm just going to try and see if I can space them better before the glue dries too well. Maybe put it on the fold. Let's see how that goes. It's much better, in my opinion, but with some inking and with the paper that I'm going to be using to decorate it, I think it won't look too bad. So let's see where this goes. Oops. So I want the final page to also be solid like this one. Not that it really matters, but I don't want the pocket on the back. So I'm going to not alternate with this one. I'm just going to stick this one down exactly the same as this one. You'll see now. So to keep them looking more or less aligned, I am just putting it on the fold now. So I'm not leaving space at all. And I think that helps with the alignment of it in the long run. Yeah. Now I think I'm just going to use a candle to get the stickiness off of the envelopes of their self-seal parts. So I'm just going to be using a tea candle. It's a generic, very cheap tea candle. I'm going to be using this to just take away the stickiness by rubbing the candle all over the area that has the glue on it. It takes the stickiness away. So I might still be covering this. I probably will because it's ugly. But just for the sake of making it less of a burden working with the stickiness, I'm just going to take it all away. You don't have to use brand new envelopes like I'm doing. Like I said, you can use any envelopes that you have at hand. I just bought new ones for this project because I wanted them all to look the same, and I didn't want them to be torn and misshapen from being used. And I also wanted a blank canvas to be able to work on it, because most junk mail envelopes have an address printed on them or whatever to that effect, and I just wanted to skip all that. It will work like an infinite book. So if this is the front cover and you turn the page and have a signature here, and turn the page and have a signature here, turn the page and have a signature here, that's already 3 signatures. And then you close it to this side, so this will be like the second front cover, and then you open it and there's a signature here. I forgot to do this part with the oh goodness, isn't this fun? So then this would be the second front cover, essentially the back cover. And so they'll have a signature here, and you'll have a signature here, and then you're back at the front cover. So it's a very interesting way to make a journal. And if you open it, it'll stand up like this, and then you'll have the signatures in all the folds. I'm going to keep them small. Like I said, the signatures are going to be really thin, and they're going to fit in here nicely. But I think as I'm going to work through this will take on a life of its own, and I'm sure that the journal will tell me what it wants to be. So I thought about just gluing this up here because I do want the pockets slightly bigger, and I'm just wondering how well it will go in here if you put something in here with the signature here. But maybe I should just hold on before doing that, and just start with the signatures. So like I said, I'll have 5 signatures in total, and I'm going to have 4 pages in each signature. So I've just selected some rather plain paper that I'll be working with to make each signature. So I'm just preparing the signatures. I think that this looks fine. I think I'm going to keep it looking more or less uniform by making each first page of each signature a tea-dyed paper. So that's 5 signatures, all put in order of how I would like them to be inside the little journal. And yeah, let's get to the binding. So for the binding, you will need your signatures, as I've already shown you. And you'll need a template, and you'll need tools to cut down the signatures so they fit in the journal. So I've got my craft knife and my ruler, a pencil, and I've got the tools needed to do the actual binding, which is an awl, a needle, and some thread. And you will need a template. So I'm just using some scrap paper to create the template. So it has to fit snugly inside the fold, and then it has to be cut off so that it fits inside the journal. So what I'm thinking is I'm just going to use the template to figure out the size like I just showed you, but then I'm going to cut it slightly smaller than what it should be, so that I know that it fits inside the journal nicely. And since this was just an A4 folded in half, then it fits in nicely like so. So now I can use this template to cut all my signatures to size. I'm not going to worry about pockets, but I might fold this in as a flip out to create extra writing space. And this is going to be the longest paper on this signature, so I'm going to cut off everything else. So that's looking good. And the next one, And of course we'll be keeping most of these, because what paper crafter ever really throws away any paper? So all the signatures are done and they fit nicely inside the book. I think I need to cut this one a bit shorter. I'm wondering if I should cut all of them a bit smaller. Nope, I think I'm just going to leave it like this, so we can start the binding. So I'm going to be using a 3-hole pamphlet stitch for the binding, and all I'm going to do is use the template all I'm going to do is use the template that I used to get the correct size for each signature, and this will be the correct height. So I'm just going to be folding it in half and folding it in half again. Then you have 3 distinct folds, and if you open your template, you can mark which side is the top and mark every fold where the long fold and the short folds meet. You can mark with little dots so that you can see them clearly. And then you poke a hole with your awl. So this will be the guide that I use in every single signature, and I'm not going to be poking holes through the envelopes first. I'm just going to be doing it all in one go, and then I will stitch the signatures together. But I'll walk you through the first one and do the rest without talking. And this will be my first signature. So I'm just making sure everything is more or less aligned the way that I want it to be, and I'm making sure the folds are nice and tight and everything's where it needs to go. So then you snugly fit it into there, and then you align your, oh my goodness, then you align your template with your signature and your signature with your cover. So then you use your awl and you just poke holes straight through, holding everything nice and tight and moving your awl to the side where it hits the next hole, and then you can align it nicely and just make a hole. So I'm going to leave my awl inside, but I'm taking the template out. Almost said temple again. Okay, so then you will need some sort of thread. So I don't have wax thread. I will either DIY some in the future, or I will buy some if I find them around here. If you know where I can find them, please tell me. Please comment below and let me know where I can find thread, because I'm not sure. Then I take 3 heights of my journal, and I just double it so that I have a nice strong thread to work with. Then I thread my needle. Make sure they're the same length. So for a 3-hole pamphlet stitch, you start from the middle. You can either start from the inside going out, then my knot will be on the inside, or if you'd like it to be on the outside, you start from the outside going in, if you'd like the knot or the bow or the dangles or whatever you want to do with your thread from the outside. But I want mine from the inside, so I'm starting from the inside going out. And then you make sure to leave a tail. And then you go from the next hole inside, from outside in, push it through, and you tighten everything. Then you can remove the awl and you go into the next hole from the inside out. And then you skip the middle hole like that. And then you go from the outside back in through the middle hole, but try not to pierce your thread. So everything's nice and tight. I just want my tails to be on either side of this middle hole and thread. So then you tighten everything and you try to make sure that the signature doesn't move around too much. That's nice and tight. And then you make a knot, nice and tight, and a double knot. Nice and tight. So from here you can either do a bow or you can just cut them off. So I'm just going to be cutting them off, not too short. So it adds some character to the page. And I don't throw away my thread. I keep them like a hoarder in my little jar. So I use these in making ephemera or decorating pages. So that's how the side of the journal will be looking with the 3-hole pamphlet stitch. And if you work the pages in a bit, like so, you will find that it looks really good and it's nice and tight. And I've sewn through all of my pages nicely. Maybe switch this one there. There you go. First signature done. So I'll do the rest quickly without talking. These pages are really old, so I'm just going to strengthen the fold with some masking tape because I don't want it to like disintegrate on me. This page actually comes from a really old book. I'm not sure if it's Portuguese. It's a really interesting book my husband found for me. I'm just trying to see if it says the year that it was printed. 1945. How awesome is that? So these pages are really old and very brittle. So the signatures are all bound in and the book looks chunky already. So I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm going to be decorating the front of the journal now. So I'm thinking about going in a shabby chic direction for this journal. So I've selected a few vintage lace pieces that I've got that I'd like to use on the cover. I'm not sure how old these are, but I got them from a family friend who had them from her mother-in-law who passed away. So this is rather old, and I've got this interesting, it's actually a wool. I'm not sure how you actually knit with it, but it's a wool, and I thought about using this as a closure, as a wraparound closure for the journal. And then I've got some tea-dyed, I think this is like backing for when you do embroidery work. I've got some tea-dyed of that and some burlap that I want to use, and then I've got some flowers, buttons, and some broken jewelry that I might work with. So I've got some gold and silver here. I'm not sure in which direction I'm going to go with it. And then I've got some different selections of paper. I might get some other papers, and I'm thinking about using actual vintage images that I've printed out to make the cover look pretty. And then, of course, as I've mentioned earlier, I'll be using this beautiful scrap paper to do the front and the back cover. I might only decorate the front cover today and do the other front cover, the back cover, in a different video. Let's get into it. So firstly, I need to see how big the cardstock should be that I'm using for the front cover. So I'm just going to eyeball it like so and just mark it off more or less where I need it. And I'm going to cut two of them, one for the back cover and one for the front cover. So I just used my corner punch to round the corners a bit, and now I'm just distressing the edges so that they look vintage. The nice thing about this type of journal is that it lays completely flat when you work in it. So if you open the entire journal, my camera won't fit everything in, you work in it completely flat, which is great because these type of journals can get quite chunky, and that helps if you need to write in it, or if you're doing your art journaling or prayer journaling, whatever you do in them. So it's nice if you can work nice and flat on it. So I'm just going to stick this down, and then from there I'll just figure it out. I'm also just going to stick the back cover down, even though I may not be decorating it today. I'm still trying to figure out what my style of video should be, because even though I'm a woman, I can't really multitask. So if I get distracted by talking, that's what I do. And if I start crafting, then I get distracted, and that's what I do. So I'm trying to figure out my style of making videos, and I would really appreciate you guys giving me feedback on what you like and don't like, so that I can lean into stuff that you like and maybe stop doing the stuff that you don't like. So, like I said, if I talk, I talk. If I work, I work. And I get distracted very easily. So I might not be talking through the whole video as I'm supposed to. But also, I'm not really one to just say things because it needs to be said or because the silence is awkward. So, yeah, I'll appreciate your feedback, your input. Let's do the rest of the cover. So I'm going to be using these images of these two ladies on their own. The rest are either wedding pictures or family photos or something to that effect. So I'm decided to use the ladies that are on their own because I think this will be a beautiful gratitude journal. So I'm going to cut them out and ink the edges and maybe do some painting with coffee to age them even further, and then I will take it from there. Okay, I'm just going to leave these to dry to one side and continue. I'm just cutting the edges of this burlap off because it's actually a runner that I bought at my local craft shop. But now the edges have been sewn, so I'm just cutting it off so that I can fray it. Trying to see what papers I can use to build up the texture. This isn't dry yet, so I want different textures and different layers, and I think these look good together. I just need to figure out how I'm going to shape these two especially. I might have this one sitting on top with a little piece of tea-dyed paper and then have the image on it somehow. Maybe do another layer in between. These are just for some extra texture, so I'll figure that out, but I also need to do a closure. So I need to figure out how I'm going to do the wrap around here. So I'll need to tie it down either by using an eyelet here and then having it wrap around the journal like this, nice and lots of it, so that there's enough of it to go around the journal when it gets chunky. So I think I need to do that before I start gluing stuff down, and I still want to incorporate the lace of some sort somehow. Maybe do a layered like that at the bottom, and maybe have this torn because it looks so cool when it's torn, just roughly like that. I think this is like seamstresses use this under collars, I think. I'm not sure if it's actually for embroidery, but I'm not sure what it's called. Interfacing, that's what it's called. I'm not a seamstress. So I've got a lot of it still left that I can use to tea dye. I think it's just an awesome texture. You see, my words don't work when I'm doing things. You guys, and especially in the situation, because it's not really planned very well. I'm a planner. I do a lot of planning, and I always feel like I should plan everything, But with my videos, because creativity, I can't really plan my creativity. I just need to do it. And my table's always messy. I've always got stuff lying around and then I get distracted. Like I've said before, I promised you interesting, beautiful projects, not perfect work. I just use the inking to bring some texture to, or not texture, but depth to it. That's the word I'm looking for. Otherwise everything just looks so stark, and this just brings it to life, I think. Especially going for a antique shabby chic look. This is really, really nice. And I think I've decided that I'm going to run the lace on the side of the journal, so it peeks out at the bottom and on the top, and maybe double it up by doing this, and then placing my different textured. Maybe this burlap's a bit too big, we'll see, or not. Ooh, that could look nice, but I think, yeah, I think the burlap is a bit too big, and no, maybe not, because I might have to move it up a bit like so. And then I can put a sentiment there. Yeah, I think that's going to look amazing. Let's do that. I have to do the closure first. So this is where I have to decide what color I'm going to be going with in terms of the broken jewelry that I've got here. So I'm thinking if I go gold, which will look really nice with everything, and bring in some purple, that'll look really good. So I think I'm going to go with the gold. I don't have too much gold here, and I can rummage through my collection a bit more and just see what I've got. I need something for the back as well. So I'm going to be doing the gold, and that means that I'm going to be doing a gold eyelet there. So I've got this eyelet setter. I think it's a seamstress eyelet setter. But if you don't have eyelets, don't worry. You can still do a proper closure. You can always reinforce the hole with one of those stickers, one of these, or you can cut it out of cardstock and use your punch to just make a hole in the middle, and you can just stick it down there and reinforce it that way. So there's many ways to do this. I'm going to see if I can get this because it's bulky. Ugh. Okay. Okay, so the closure is on. Let's see how this will work. I just wanted to have it in before I start gluing the lace down. because yeah, it's going to be propped up a bit there, and I'm not going to glue around it. So if I do need to change the closure, I can. Okay. So I don't want the cover design, the embellishments to poke too far over the sides, because you still need to flip-flop the journal. So I'm thinking of maybe just scaling the whole cluster down. Like that, maybe. Have this here, like so. Or maybe switch these two around. Keep that there, and maybe have this one poked down a bit like so, and have this in the middle, and then you can mostly see every layer like so. I think that looks good, and then I can always add the brooch, or I think this is a I think this is an old earring. Yeah, you can add the earring here and leave this maybe for the back. And I'm not sure how this will look, but maybe add the flowers. Like this. So I'm not going to use that now. Okay, I'm going to start sticking these down, and I'm also just going to be using my paper glue, and hopefully I don't mess up the cluster because I won't be able to remember. Okay, start. I'm not going to drench the burlap or this interfacing rather with glue, because I don't want it to seep through too much. As long as they stick down nicely, it'll be fine. This is still a little bit wet, but I am going to be sticking it down. I'm trying to get to the edges as good as possible with my glue, but I'm just going to spread it with my finger and just be sure that I'm getting it everywhere, because this is such a uneven surface I'm sticking this to. I don't want it to lift. Okay, let's give that a moment to dry. So I've got this old typewriter that I got from a friend of mine, And I'm going to use this just to type out the word gratitude, and maybe for the back of my journal I'll write out grace upon grace. This is a really old one, it doesn't work too good, but I'm going to do the best I can. Always stained fingers. So I'm going to put this one here on the front cover, and this one I'll leave for the back cover whenever I get to that one. But I'm going to cut nice and wide around it so that I can ink the edges nicely. I love my little corner punch. I do feel that I do need to bring some kind of a dangle or a little bit of beads or something to the front cover. So I think I'm just going to go rummage for something quickly. So I found these. I'm sorry, my hands are really dirty from the typewriter. I thought I'd use a bulb. I think this is called a bulb pin. So I'll use the bulb pin and then some pearls, because there's a pearl on the flower, and this gold bead, and let's see how that fits in there. That looks so cute. So I'm thinking about maybe hooking it in here close to the phrase. Oh. No, we don't want that. I think that looks really nice. So then the closure wraps around the whole thing, and you tuck it in the bottom, or rather, I think it's going to work better the other way around, going over and then under, like so. Now I'm hiding the lady's face. Okay, I might rethink the closure later on. Might do something a little less bulky, or because you can't really do a closure that's another eyelet on this side, because then you close this side and it gator mouths like that. So that's not going to work. It needs to be something that wraps around. So I will revisit the closure thing later on, but for now I'm just going to leave it there. I just thought that I'd quickly just show you a flip through again before I say goodbye. This hasn't dried yet, so I'm going to pop it under some heavy books now when I finish. And like I said, I'm going to most probably change this closure because it doesn't look nice. So the front cover is very shabby chic, which I was going for, and like I said, I'm going to make this a gratitude journal, and I just thought that I'd quickly show you again. So the eyelet that I used here is visible, and then we got the signatures. Each signature looks a little bit different, but the front page is a tea-dyed page. And then I've got pockets that I still can fill up and decorate. I still need to decide if I'm going to fold it down or if I'm going to leave it up top. So I've got the 5 signatures like this. This one we'll do next video. And there's some more signatures and more pockets. I alternated the side of the envelope that I pasted down, and so now I've got pockets on each side of the book as well, and then you've got your front cover again. It's a really interesting way of making a journal. Thank you so much for sticking around. If you're still here, that's awesome. I'm doing this, like I said in the beginning, as a few parts in a series, and this was part 1 where I made the journal and decorated the front of it. So I'll be working through it for the next couple of videos, I think, where we'll be making ephemera for every little booklet and tackling the challenges together. And I can already see that I'll have to figure something out because this is going to not look that great. But I'll wait for it to dry completely and then tackle whatever comes up. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed it. And as you could see, all the challenges, all the dirty fingers and everything that goes with it, it's part of the fun. And just create, because creating helps me. Creating helps my emotional well-being. And I've decided to dub this a gratitude journal because I'm grateful for how the Lord has worked in my life and how He's working in my life at the moment. Got so many amazing testimonies, and I just felt like this should be a gratitude journal. If this is something that you'd like to see me continue with, remember to like and subscribe, and click that bell so that you get the notifications when I post a new video. So I hope you feel inspired. Go and create, and if you feel like you want to join me on this journey, go and grab yourself your envelopes and your signatures and get creating. And remember that it doesn't have to be perfect to be powerful. Bye.